Let's move over to combat sports here. We're going to begin in boxing, where Los Angeles is the site of a monster pay-per-view on Saturday night. 3 title fights. Rick Rockwell's got a preview of the full card online gamblingsites.org, but let's break down the top 2 title fights here. First up, David Benavidez challenging Anthony Dirrell for his WBC super middleweight championship. Benavidez, a former champion who had to vacate his belt or was stripped of it after testing positive for cocaine. Dirrell won the belt after Benavidez was stripped of it. Benavidez, a whopping minus 875 favorite to take his title back. Dirrell, a plus 625 underdog to retain the championship and prove that he should have it instead of Benavidez. Rick, who do you like for this championship match?
Oh, I'm all in on Benavidez. I think he's going to be a superstar of the sport. I will give Dirrell he's worthy of a flyer. He's a veteran. He's a tough fighter. He's gritty, and he's a champion. And he's fought for 3 different belts before. So it's like, or multiple titles before. He's been around. He's been in this game for a while, and he's got a little bit more experience at a higher level of competition than Benavidez does. Benavidez is 22. He's like a dozen years younger than his opponent, but he's got a lot of talent. He's got size. He's got speed. He's got the IQ inside the ring. Listen, he let his success go to his head, and because of that, he got into trouble outside of the ring, partied too much. Wasn't like he went and beat a woman like some of these other athletes we've talked about on the show already, or done anything like that. He partied too much, got popped in a drug test, and suffered the consequences. He wasn't able to fight, and he lost his title. So he's taken this as an opportunity to really come back bigger, stronger, faster, smarter, more aggressive, hungrier. He's saying all the right things. I think he'll go in there. I don't think he's going to be able to stop Dirrell here, but I do think he should be able to get a unanimous decision. I think he'll take most of the rounds if he can just, fight his game and kind of look for an opening instead of trying to force things, because he's not going up against somebody that he can just force into his game plan. He's going to have to work at it. I think he'll get it done. Odds makers obviously think he'll get it done. He's got all the potential in the world. We're looking at a potential superstar if he can continue on this trajectory.
Yeah, there's obviously not much value in betting on Benavidez to win the fight outright. He has the 12-year age advantage. Dirrell has an experience advantage, but neither of these guys has really fought someone that's top tier necessarily to this point. Dirrell, I've also seen has mentioned retirement a time or two, which kind of makes me wonder if his head is really in this at all. But yeah, like Rick was saying, the odds aren't really such that you can really take Benavidez with, much hope for profit. So I would take him to win, but, I don't think I'd be betting on it at those odds.
What I would consider because of that, though, is you could take Benavidez, as Rick said, to win by decision and maybe find better odds that way. If you think he's going to finish in a certain round, then you go for that. But to bet on the fight lasting, going the full length and getting Benavidez to win, that might make it actually financially worth the bet. But yeah, sometimes these boxing odds, minus 875, I just look at it and go, I would never. That's not worth it to me to go, have to risk basically $9 to get $1 back in return. That's just not, unless that's the way that you're saving money and not having to pay for the pay-per-view. If you need to have a ticket to sit in a sports book to watch the fight, then it becomes worth it, because then you could bet the cost of the pay-per-view and sit back and watch. But that's, I think you could probably pay a $5 cover at a sports bar or something like that at that point. But anyway, let's move to the main event. It's Errol Spence Jr. taking on Sean Porter in a fight to unify the IBF and WBC welterweight championships. Spence is a minus 800 favorite with Porter a plus 550 underdog. Taylor, who leaves LA with all the gold?
This is a lot like the other fight. Porter might try to muck the fight up a little bit, just kind of make it ugly. But Spence has the age, the strength, and the size advantage here. I don't really think we get a knockout. I think Spence can take this via decision or TKO. But, yeah, I don't think – obviously the outright result is not something you want to be betting on, just like the other one.
Yeah, there's been a lot of chatter calling this a 50-50 fight, because Porter is another rugged fighter who puts the pressure on his opponents, who tries to rough them up. As Taylor just said, muck it up. He gets in there. He gets in the proverbial phone booth and he turns it into an ugly fight. That's, it's a classic example of dirty boxing. He gets in there and he makes it really physical. However, Spence does have the boxing skills and the athleticism to keep the distance, to counter reporters' pressure and pace. Spence really impressed me with his IQ in his last fight against Mikey Garcia, who was a 4-division champion and a stud in his own right. Obviously, there was a huge size difference, but Spence outboxed him. He didn't just use his size difference to just maul him. He flat out outboxed him for like 11 of the 12 rounds. It wasn't even close. It was a marvelous job. I think this is one of those fights where we see Spence's stock rise even more. Like, you need good challengers to bring out the best in you sometimes, and I think Porter is going to bring out the best in Spence here. I do think Spence takes it in decision, so there were some prop bets that asked, will it go to the distance, and I think it was like minus 175 if it goes to the distance. That's better. There's some prop bets on whether or not Spence will win via decision, and that's a better odds. So you get better odds when you look at those props, which I've listed them in my preview of this whole event. But for me, I'm really excited for this fight. You got two solid champions trying to this is what boxing should be about. This is what it used to be about. Champions fighting champions to be the best, to collect all the gold, to clean out the division, and prove you are, without a doubt, the undisputed champion. And I think Spence is well on his way to do that. He's going to take this title, and he's going to look at the rest of the landscape, and he's going to go after those belts too.
I think you guys said it all. Again, for this one with those odds, it comes down to the prop bet. Take either a round for a finish or that it goes the distance on it, because I think the favorite takes home the win in this one as well. UFC's in Copenhagen this week, where they're hoping to avoid a repeat of last week's main event craziness. As someone who was there, it was a pretty scary situation after Herb Dean had to call off the main event between Yair Rodriguez and Jeremy Stephens after Rodriguez caught Stephens in the eye with a poke, and Stephens was unable to open his eye for at least 5 minutes. Fans at the Mexico City Arena proceeded to throw beer, coins, and food down at the octagon and directly at Stephens as he was hurried to the back. This week's fight card hails from Copenhagen, Denmark. You can find a full betting breakdown of the fight card online at gamblingsites.org in an article. Rick Rockwell always taking care of that for us every week. Headline bout is a middleweight contest between Jack Hermansson and Jared Cannonier. The Killer Gorilla, Cannonier, a plus 200 underdog against Jack the Joker. That's why Rick's pointing at his shirt. Who is a minus 240 favorite to get the win. Rick, you keep pointing at the Joker on your shirt. Are you picking Jack to pick up the W?
Without a doubt. I've said this before. He's one of the fighters I really like. I root for. I'm not going to put him on the same level as, like Uriah Faber and stuff, my favorite, and Cowboy Cerrone. But he's one of my fave fives in the UFC right now. You can throw the boogeyman Ferguson in there also. With that said, he's got a well-rounded game in the all-around skills to win this fight. Killer Gorilla, I love that nickname. Like, it's hilarious, and it's fitting because he really is a beast. He was a heavyweight that came down to middleweight, basically. And so he transformed his body and his game. However, he's older. He hasn't been winning as much in recent years as he did prior. The Joker has gone on at least a 4-fight win streak. He's been clearing out, each person along the way to move up in the ranks. He's 5th. Killer Gorilla's 9th. We're looking at a possibility of the Joker winning. Well, I think he'll win this fight. But not only that, earning a future title shot. The problem is the middleweight division is backed up with title contenders. Costa, who just won it, earlier this month or last month over Romero, he's number 1 contender right now. Then you've got, the loser of the Whitaker-Adesanya fight. Like, you've got so many top fighters ready to come out and contend for the belt. It's muddied the waters. So who knows what's going to happen next? I will tell you this, though. I think the Joker's going to get this, and I would not be surprised if he wins in the first round. He said that's his goal, is to go out there, finish his fight in the first round. When I looked at their stats, Joker has 2 first-round wins in the UFC already, and Killer Gorilla has 4 first-round losses in his career. So there is a possibility that Joker can get this done in the first round. Either way, I'm picking him to win. I have no doubt about it. I think he's too well-rounded of a fighter for Killer Gorilla to beat.
Yeah, I think Cannonier's only real path to victory is via knockout. I don't really think that's very likely to happen. I think Hermansson's just too good for him. I don't really need to add much more to this. The longer the fight goes on, I think the more it favors Hermansson. So I will take Hermansson.
Yep, I'm just gonna make that one unanimous too. Joker. Yeah, he should win this fight. Rick basically took all of that. So, that's why he's our MMA expert on this panel. I hope you enjoyed that segment from the Odds On Favorites podcast. If you did, there's plenty more where that came from. Click on the link on your screen now to be taken to the complete podcast from this week, or check out the channel to find the other individual segments. And make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the Odds On Favorites YouTube channel for plenty more sports and sports betting picks, tips, and how-to guides.